My name's Mike Bulge, and I grew up in Hickory.
Tim Whitener, born and raised in Hickory, raced in the Soapbox Derby in 68, 69, and 70.
My name's Andy Killian. I'm from Hickory, North Carolina. I went to St. Stephen's High School. It was very interesting to race with all the different guys from different schools in different areas.
I was up at my grandmother's house. I saw the Hickory Daily Record say in 1967. She used to get the Sunday paper. I was reading it. They were having a derby program. I asked my dad if we could do it. And so 1967, we signed up to do it. And, I built a car, and we had it lined up, but we thought, it was lined well. I was a little kid, so it was pretty small, streamlined, but I didn't put a lot of weight in it. So Scott Sane beat me, and he's the champion for that year. Then I raced again, built another car, wouldn't give up, and raced again in 68.
Was second in 1968. I was third in 1969, and I was fifth in 1970. But it still was a wonderful experience.
I finished second twice in 71 and 72. It was a really good event for the boys to learn how to build things, and it taught you to be an engineer.
So it was just one of those things that once you got involved, it was very interesting, and you wanted to be a part of it. Whether you were on the inside or the outside, it was just it was an exciting time.
In 69, I think I started working on the car in January, and the race was in August. And we pulled out all the stops. I won in 69.
It was just a great time, I thought, for everybody.
My name is John Vaughn, and I moved to Hickory from Charlotte. Never heard of the Soapbox Derby until I lived in Charlotte. And then while I was in Charlotte, I was a member of a civic club there that one of their projects was the Derby. So I volunteered. I said, yeah, hey, I'd like to do that as a project, Well, that went on probably 4 years. But I got to know the program in and out, and the more I got to know it, the better I liked it.
We got the Hickory race. Of course, John at the time, came from Charlotte. Charlotte director was Drew Hearn. John asked for a Hickory race. They weren't willing to give us one. Said, just run with Charlotte, you're in a proximity. Well, I believe John and Drew sort of got together, and Drew told the national committee, listen, I can't take a chance. There's a lot of kids up in Hickory. I can't take a chance that a kid from Hickory is going to win the Charlotte race. So to my understanding, that's sort of how the race came about in Hickory.
Roach Chevrolet, they were the main sponsors, the originator of the Derby. And I said, I'm interested in obtaining a franchise for Hickory. They answered immediately, said, you need the cooperation of a good civic group, you need a good press group, which preferably a newspaper, and said, you have to have a Chevrolet dealer. Said, we'll take care of that. I asked who see in the JCs, and somebody put me right on the president, Charles Snipes. Sit down, talk to him, and he said, hey, we'd love it as a project. I went to the Hickory Daily Record, talked what my intention was. We'd be glad to sponsor you.
Per capita, we had the biggest race in the country. And to get all these people, around Hickory, all the people that were in the crafts and had jobs in mills, and it was a perfect place, racing backgrounds of people around here.
The Hickory JCs, when I had race day, I'd get 30 to 40 volunteers to take load trucks, all the work that's involved. tires lined both sides of the street, top to bottom, to protect, you know, if a little car got loose, kept it out of the crowd, and all of that has to be done. It was all done. I had more help than I needed.
John ran a clean program, loved all the guys. His whole family gave up lots of time for it. It just made a big difference to a lot of people.
67 was our first get together and have a race. I got the use of a school shop, which is College Park over here, and with the cooperation of that school shop teacher, he had to be there. That was one of the requirements. He just happened to be a active JC. The press, which did a good job all year, you know, on a weekly basis, estimated our crowd of people at about 5,000 people. The Derby was off and running. Everybody that participated in the first car, and we had in between 30 and 40 contestants that ran down that hill in 67. Every one of them was interested, came back the following year, which if you're not a winner, you can come back the next year and on and on. In 68, we grew to between 60 and 70 contestants. It went over that big for some reason. I don't know why. Here comes a little old guy from Charlotte that can't even find his way across Hickory, and getting that kind of cooperation out of the general public of the organizational Hickory running the things.
It started when I was in Cub Scouts. We have a little Pinewood Derby in Cub Scouts. And everybody knows pretty much the fathers build those little cars. Well, my car just happened to win. And then in our Cub Scout pack, we also have a little boat race. They have boat races, and my boat won. And so I guess at some point Dad wanted to go to something bigger. And when we went and watched this 67 race, the first race over there on Southern Death Hill, Dad said, "You think you'd like to try that?" And I said, "I think I would, and I'm sure you would too." So then we built a 68 car and ran for 3 years.
From day one, I had anything that had wheels on it, you know, and I always wanted to race. And later in life, I did race some. I raced at Hickory Speedway a little bit, and I always finished second, third, too. I had 9 second place finishes the first year I ran there. The Soapbox Derby progressed a lot from 69 to 72 was the last year they had it here. The cars changed a lot. They went from sit-up models, and some people used what they called, I had a layback model where you laid back in it. You can make them a little smaller, laying back in them, and you can make them slicker. The guy that helped me with it, Bill Cockerham, he had a winning car one year with his boy, and he was sort of a backyard engineer, and he was always dreaming up of all kinds of ways to make a car faster. I had some cutting-edge cars. We had the first fiberglass car built that I know about in Hickory. It was fun racing. I tell you what, going down those hills, not knowing if you're going to stop. Both of my cars, the brakes broke on them. What they do is put hay bales up at the end of the track. The track over here in Hickory, they put a bunch of hay bales up in case your brakes failed. Because I'm going to tell you something, you got up some pretty good speed going down through there. And you had a 250-pound vehicle that you had to stop. So I'd have to hit the hay bales each time to stop, and the guys would run out there and try to grab you and slow you down. Now the 72 race was over on Tate Boulevard. It was much more safe. It was a nice hill, and then if you didn't stop, you just rolled through at the end and you sort of coasted back up the hill. But the race in Hickory over here, you got down to the bottom of the hill and you could hit something. Matter of fact, there was a couple guys, I know one guy rolled a car over there. One boy had to be taken to the hospital. It wasn't totally safe always. You could have some problems if you wasn't careful.
The first thing, you hear the sound of the flap. And there for a split second, you're not moving enough, you feel like you're moving. But when you come off that ramp, you know what's going on. And then you're doing your best to stay on that dotted line, and stay straight. Maybe you can't help but look over, to the guy you're running, and then of course, maybe at that point in time you look back and you're off your stripe. So.
Well, it's quiet. You know, you don't have any engine, so, you know, you're just coasting. But you do get up to good speed. You know, those hills were basically all hill, you know, so when you got to the bottom, you was going some pretty good speed.
Over all of those years, we probably didn't have over 10 guys that started that didn't finish the project.
It shaped my life. A lot of I call them kids, we're a little older now, but all the kids that were in the Derby, you know, I'm sure it had a big influence on them as well.
I had little guys that never had the use of a screwdriver before they went to my first clinic, and until this come along, and before it was over with, they were talking mechanics.
The first year I built a standard car. It had a 2x12 piece of wood for the top and the bottom, and then masonite sides. The next year we built a laminated car, which is a lot more detailed, and actually we just modified that car to run the next year. So I ran 3 years, I only ran 2 cars. Always trying to think of an edge to make the car go faster.
We had an invisible area in our floorboard that we put buckshot in. And Bill's idea was, when you're going down the hill, all that lead's gonna go to the front to push you forward, and he always thought that when you got down to the bottom, the lead would level out. Now, that's just backyard engineering, you know, he's just trying to think of some way to gain some speed, you know, but there's a lot of thinking went into these things. You didn't just build something and hope it's gonna go down the hill, you know, you had to make sure that your axles or your alignment stayed straight, because you didn't want to scrub any weight off or any speed off, you know, you cambering your wheels or anything like that. He had an idea on one we had where to keep the axle straight was gonna run a rod up through, a threaded rod, and turn it about a half a notch each time in case our axles, because this weight on these axles would bend them, which would give you negative camber, which would slow your car down. And the whole idea is try to keep your axles straight, your alignment straight, try to keep your weight maximum. It was more to it than what you think, you know.
There is the results of the guys that came from scratch to being mechanically minded, to knowing what's going on, to know when you're talking caster and camber in the wheels, they knew more about it than we did. Hey, that's success. That's what the program is all about. I didn't have one contestant that didn't have a daddy or didn't have a family that claimed him that didn't make it to the project. I would see that he got there, see that he got his sponsors, see that he built his car, helped him in every way possible. I had good example. The little Day family, Hildebrand, 3 brothers, no daddy. 3 of them went down the hill. That's the success we had. Over in Ridgeview, I had a couple of good little helpers that went down the hill with the built car. That's who we really helped. I may have caused it to happen, but it happened to the people that really got the good out of it.
I sought out a long wheelbase car, the classic shape, and John had surveyed the track and found a new venue, and we walked down that track, me and my dad, and said, you know, with those starting ramps and the way this track is, we turned the floorboard around and saw the sharp nose on it and decided to make a short wheelbase car. And with the ramp starting system that we had, that really, you know, was instrumental, along with all the other tricks, you know, we learned along the way.
It gave you something to do and to think about. Who's doing this, or what are they doing, or if you could read anything. I don't know how much we had access to national, you know, cars, unless you went to Akron and got to see them. You didn't know what the speed secrets were or what other people were trying, but it was just it was an involved process, interesting process.
We had 1 girl. Now, it was wide open. I'm to recruit all the girls that wanted to be in it. We had 1. And bless her little heart, she went down the hill on race day in the afternoon after the race. We already had it arranged. There again, my JCs are proud of them. They'd have a banquet arranged for every contestant. And every contestant got a trophy. And of course the winner gets a big trophy and everything. But we treated our little contestants with royalty. And they loved it. And that just went over so good.
You know, we had a lot of camaraderie. John arranged for us to go to do activities together. We all went down to Six Flags one time. We all went down to watch the Atlanta Braves play, and we had banquets, and it just felt like the whole town. You know, Hickory got the award for All-America City during that time frame, and I have a feeling the Derby program played into that.
You know, you're trying things. My brother's car that won in '70 and mine are basically the same car, except we did one thing on his axle trees, we did on the suspension, and a different one on mine. You're experimenting. We would take it over to a hill, we'd go over to where the fairgrounds now are off of 70 and run our two cars and change lanes and then see how they ran that way. And actually, because they were so similar, John used our cars to set up the track. Because city streets aren't equal, so you had to adjust the ramps to maybe one be a little bit higher to make the lanes equal. So, and that was interesting. That was fun to do.
They would impound the cars the night before the race. They'd let you come up there, and the last thing you could do was oil your wheels up. You want them to roll as easy as they could. And then after that, you didn't get to touch your car anymore until race day to take it out to the track to race it. And it was 250 pounds max. And you wanted to weigh all you could. The heavier it was, the faster you're going to get down the hill. The guy that helped me with mine, he would make me weigh each time I come back up the top of the hill and make sure I wasn't losing weight, dehydrating. He'd say, you're 2 pounds light. Go drink all the water you can drink. And he'd keep weighing me till I made sure I was maximum weight, to get all the speed we could. You pushed the rules. Bill would push the rules to the max. We got close. He had 1 win and 2 seconds, on the cars that he helped build. It took a lot of engineering, it really did.
We got to go to Akron. My brother won. My dad at that time didn't really take many vacations, or had not taken a vacation in a long time. We got to go to Akron. Well, the year that my brother won, Mike went with us. It was an intriguing thing. Once you got involved, it was in your blood. And so a number of people, Andy Keehan went to Akron, not just the winners. Billy Cockerham went back, Mark Cockerham. The next year in '71, Dad went back again. We went back as a family again. I went to the '72 race, so it was just one of those things that once you got involved, it was very interesting, and you wanted to be a part of it.
I got to go to Akron 2 years, and the reason you went up there was you wanted to look at what everybody else was doing, because that's where the pros went. You're just lucky to get to go. And those guys had been doing it longer than some of those other towns, and they had a lot of tricks, slick cars. I mean, you go up there and you're thinking, oh my God, we even got a chance, It's just unbelievable stuff up there.
The '69 winner that raced in Akron won his first heat in Akron. Only time we ever won a heat in Akron.
When they brought you to town, they gave you a police escort into town. You got kissed by cheerleaders. You went in and had your photo taken. It was all big time. We got to be in a parade. The Corvette Club of America, came in with their Corvettes and rode us down in a parade, and all the movie stars.
But hey, you go up there to win. If you don't win, you lose. You're proud to be there. You deserve to be there. You've been rewarded for a week of the best treatment that you, as a contestant, that you could have had. We didn't have any guys come home crying. We had winners come home proud.
It was a good time. It was a time when kids, boys, did things with their hands, played outside. There wasn't internet, it wasn't computers. It was a good character building activity. I
just wish that '67 could start all over again. and be on the same grounds that it was. Because we had it from everybody's standpoint. Every sponsor, every family, I just had everything incorporated into that program.
It was a lot of fun. I learned how to work some tools and learned a lot about physics and aerodynamics. I learned a lot. Unfortunately, you'd learn something every year, and then you'd have to learn a little bit more because you would you'd get beat by somebody that knew more than you did the year before. But it was a lot of fun. Certainly was.
Takes you back to a childhood, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, when things were simpler. And stuff like this was just something kids could do that instead of being out on the street doing something bad, you know, you could do this. Made a couple friendships and a couple enemies.
I've gotten over being beat by this car, so things go along all right after a while.
He's already got it figured out.
I did repaint my car and it looks exactly like it did in 1972. It's identical. The way you see it today is exactly the way it looked brand new back in 1972.
Oh man, I love it. It's worked out. All the guys, to have 5 of the 6 winning cars is something else. It's amazing. This exhibit is going to be nice. It's going to be fun, and it's going to show Catawba County what us little kids did all these many years ago. I think it'll be great, actually.